I'm in Kenny's Window and Keith Martin's Almagnac.
I'm Pete and I play in a band called the Bloodsucking Freaks.
Hello, we're Tenderhook, formerly Blindside. Yeah. I've just done our first gig tonight as Tenderhook and it went very well. Very pleased with the sound, even though it is the producers.
Dave Mouse.
Taris. Crank this.
The local music program on 3D radio?
Yes, 3D radio, that is, yes. Local and live, Friday nights, 6:30 to 8.
I think it's a good scene. I think it's one that is taken too much for granted, and I think that if everyone was more switched onto it, they'd find out what a good thing it is, but possibly the only reason that it is good is because there's not everyone switched onto it. So I think it's a scene that would grow well if it did grow, but it's still good quality even though it's small.
We always go and see bands like Something for Kate, and we played with bands like Automatic, Jebediah, and I mean those bands really love coming here because the reception is just so great. Like to see more of it for the local stuff, because I mean the local bands of today will be the future youth network bands of tomorrow. So
It's healthy, and I think I don't know, in the future I think they can. I think at this time, like in the last few years, it's got better. Like early 90s, it was just sort of picking up, and it's I don't think it's peaking yet, but there's plenty of stuff out there. So you've always got a weekend where you've got a couple of bands to go see.
Like people that come and see, say, a band like the Freaks, will still go see the Marker Cane. Like it's like a very all the Violets. It's very everybody likes everything. While Melbourne's very cliquey, and we like that sort of genre, and that's all there is.
Yeah, hell music scene. Yeah, good. Love
It's
it.
lying. It's all lies. It's all lies and deception.
That's
Believe
it, mate.
me.
Who knows? He knows the same.
I guess in Adelaide, the old boss is the new boss, so therefore a band like us being unsigned will find it a lot harder to play with international and interstate bands. The old boss is the new boss.
The bands are better in Adelaide, say, than any other state, but the crowd maybe isn't as good as other states, so if we could get the hell crowd of these hell bands, we'd be large.
Unfortunately, most of the bands that have the motivation and the will to take themselves that seriously aren't very good, and the ones that are good take themselves with a pinch of salt and therefore don't have the motivation to become good. So I think it ends up being a scene that's good for Adelaide people, and you have to really be here to appreciate it.
Yeah, I think the scene at the moment is really developing, and
if you're in the scene, it's a bit cliquey like a lot of things in Adelaide, unfortunately. Yeah, I think it is if you're willing to become one of them.
But it's who you know and how you kiss their ass in Adelaide, unfortunately.
I think the thing about Adelaide is a lot of the venues are actually in the city itself, which you said before. Like, we're very lucky we can travel from one end of the street to another end of the street, and there's venues there. But those venues are only going for select different styles of bands.
Pretty much the producers, actually, and pretty much the Mad Love Bar as well, because it's pretty carefree sort of atmosphere at the Crown Lake or places like that. It's like really hampered, and it's full of yobbo sort of. Everybody there looks like they're from the bloody remand centre. So you're sort of like, okay, it's crowded. You're not going to really be comfortable and see a band. And Austria, I mean, you've got to line up with a bloody ticket to get in there half the time. And then if you're not in the first two rows, it's like, so to really see a band, probably Producers or Mad Love Bar or even Exeter.
the venues are good, but we do need more, and we need more support from the unis.
Venues. Well, this joint's pretty cool out the back. Mad Love Bar. Where else? Hold Fast Hotel down at Glenelg. That's really cool. And sort of everywhere's cool. Depends on the scene, you know. If there's dudes getting into it, jumping around, going mental, getting pissed and stuff.
Oh, Heaven too, unfortunately, has probably one of the best sounding areas, so sometimes we have to go there. Tivoli used to be good in terms of atmosphere and visual, being able to see the band. A few places like the Austral and the Exeter tend more to get acts where sound doesn't matter so much, and that's fine, because it wouldn't be, to make a better sound would be a very difficult thing in those sorts of venues.
I think over the last, certainly over the last 10 years, and more so over the last 5 years, that sort of East Coast and somewhere else is disappearing. And you know, some bands from Adelaide, most notably within Australia at least, the Mark of Cain and I was going to say 60-foot robot or whatever. Sorry, hang on. Super Jesus, that's right.
Melbourne and Sydney seem to have a bit more respect. Like, I notice if you go over to Melbourne and pull a good crowd, everybody likes you in Adelaide, even if you're, like, take for Super Jesus, who were Hell's Kitchen. They played their asses off over here with you wouldn't even find a DB interview, or same with Price of Silence. A band, Price of Silence were like the second biggest pulling band besides the Mark of Cain in Adelaide. Not even a sausage.
Yeah, I suppose, well, sort of all the record company dudes and all the dudes in the know are supposed to be, you know, in Sydney and Melbourne and stuff, so maybe they're trying to cruise there to get, you know, sort of noticed a bit more easily.
It's the distance as well. They're so far away from the East Coast where, you know, so cool to see all happening, but I guess it's just a position thing. I feel that they're a long way away, and it's unfortunate. Hopefully we can develop something here to keep the bands here.
Yeah, a lot of the bands that leave, they've got delusions of grandeur to the point where they don't last long. Once they get interstate, they all end up having an argument and coming home usually, and getting into a more casual band. You get unearthing, and you get things that are good for Triple J and good for their listeners, but not so much. I mean, if a small band does release an album, it'll usually get into the SAFM top 20 charts at some stage if it does okay, whereas Triple J charts are always UMI and always the bands that don't need much help.
Local radio, 3D radio. I guess they do a lot for local acts, like they play, you know, demos to CDs, so in that way. But I suppose Triple J, they're getting there with the Adelaide bands. Like, you know, of course, Super Jesus, Mark of Cain, all those bands getting a lot of airplay. Especially Richard Kingsmill, he's been pretty good. Yeah, Richard Kingsmill pretty good.
Yeah, I think 3D radio, local radio, really gets behind the local bands, and I think that's important because there's no other places, you know, for them to be heard. But on local radio, you know, it doesn't cost them anything, and they give anyone a chance. So that's very important to our scene.
I think 3D is the only radio station with a policy of playing demo tapes, so if you do hear an Adelaide band, it'd be more likely Cold Chisel than anything.
Yeah, national airplay, that plays a big role because, you know, when you go into state and stuff, you know, usually you're starting from scratch, no one knows you, no one wants to know you. So if you get a bit of, like, even just one song, you know, that dudes catch on to and they sort of remember the name, then you go into state and you're sort of already well known, your homework's already done for you, so.
Because we've, like, done a lot of payola to our friends at 3D, and that's got some, you know, tasteless people to our show that.
Obviously 3D and, you know, 5am.
3D Radio, which is probably one of the best community radio stations. 3D Radio, which is probably one of the best community radio stations in Australia, is great at influencing what happens in Adelaide and also giving people in Adelaide a chance. But also, again, if you're not in the scene, you probably don't listen to 3D Radio.
Well, I mean, the only local stuff you hear on like Triple J is Super Jesus, Marky Kane,
Revolver getting a
Revolver.
getting a good
I heard Blindside on there.
Yeah.
God, who else?
Yeah.
Oh, Test Eagles I heard once. And yeah, the only other time was when they were in Adelaide and they did the Adelaide thing. Other than that, I sort of, that's all you hear is the people that are like. We have labels here in Adelaide, which you've got like the Hip to Hate, you've got Krell,
The modern recording.
Modern Recordings is doing stuff. We've got studios happening, and we've got the people here with the know-how and stuff.
Oh, well, Bastard Records for sure. You know, it's got to be the most most helpful one.
Bastard Records, the beautiful band Exploding White Mice, they sort of start up their own record label, and they're sort of helping out a few bands where they're not ripping them off, but trying to, you know, get them out there, like or they're helping themselves, Exploding White Mice, and bands like Numbskulls and Cranktus and who else? Bloodsucking Freaks, I think, were on there. And
But yeah, Dominator, Greasy Pop was a great label. I remember I used to go to down to Seeing Ears, you know, and they would recommend what to buy. I didn't realise the bastards behind the counter are the ones that owned the label.
Yeah, well, Krill at the moment is a bit of a force here in South Australia, namely Honeyfix and Test Eagles have been signed to that label.
Been lots of them, you know, Pop Gun and Dominator and all the people that have run those smaller record labels, Greasy Pop, under Doug Thomas at least.
It started with the sort of a pseudo-Irish pub scene in the form of the Australian rock scene, and that slowly became our own version of grungier and grungier, so ended up with sort of a surf thrash, mosh pit, messy, drunken, debauchery sort of scene.
A lot of Australian bands. And
Masters Apprentices?
Master Apprentices, cultures, bits of AC/DC.
a musical history, oh, very much so, yeah. Built bands, mate. I could rattle them off, all the great bands that I have listened to.
How far back do you want to go? Do you want to go back to when the Angels were a moonshine jug and string band, or what, you know?
Well, yeah, it's got a pretty rich musical history. Drew, Darren and I used to go and watch bands such as Lizard Train, Mark Kane.
Bit of Clams, Exploding White Mice, I think. They're from there. We're pretty old.
Pretty much it starts with the Mice for me, for punk rock sort of history anyhow.